So you're live now.
Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I am Rupashri, and I'm happy to welcome you to the session on behalf of the Including You team. The event is also the closing finale of the current edition of Women for Women program by Expat Spouses Initiative and the Living In program from the city of Eindhoven. I am glad to say that I'm one of the alumni of the Women for Women program. On behalf of today, Including You team. The event is also the closing finale of the current edition of Women for Women program by Expat Spouses Initiative and the Living In program from the city of Eindhoven. I do hear somebody's voice, yeah. Today, I'm looking forward to discussing with my guests on the topic, Philips, the power of employee resource groups, driving gender, equity, and inclusion. I'll introduce the speakers before we start the presentation and have a Q&A session for the last 10 minutes with the speakers. Please share your questions in the chat box or in the questions option. Inclusion starts with I, said somebody who has always inspired me. Bring your whole selves to work without holding back on any perceptions, stereotypes, or politics, and life is better when you are you, is the mantra she has taught and propagated. And today, the entire organization lives by it, making it one of the most valued best practices. This is somebody who has always taught me inclusion and diversity encompasses more than just social and ethnic backgrounds or gender. It includes diversity of thought, ideas, and perspectives, and it requires an open mind. Inclusion is about accepting everyone and providing them with equal opportunities and access. She has a strong track record in helping organizations to become more inclusive and diverse, which in today's world has become a business imperative. Being a part of Nike's first global I&D team, as well as an independent I&D consultant, working with major brands like Microsoft, Accenture, ING, she brings a wealth of experience on how to create energy to evolve a culture, embracing the strengths of our differences. In her role at Philips, she is working closely together with the businesses, markets, functions, and different employee network to connect all we do and drive sustainable impact. Her greatest passion is try to moving people and shifting paradigms. For her, diversity is not an HR thing, nor it is about women or people with purple earrings. Diversity is about how we, as unique individuals, can be our best self and by doing so, inspire others to do the same. All the lovely people today here in the room, join me in welcoming one of the most inspiring leaders of today, Astrid Balsing. And hey, there's more to this. Did you all know one of the biggest events of Philips that covers 20,000 employees spanning across 80 locations is International Women's Day? And today, the initiator of this highly successful event is present with us. This is somebody who I've admired since the day one of my meeting and knowing her. A very pleasant person who is always brimming with ideas of uplifting women. An expat herself, she's a true example of how you can make it big if you have your heart set on it. She says, never blindly follow the pack, forge your own path and leave a trail. It is worth stepping out of the comfort zone. She is passionate about inclusion, diversity, and the advancement of female role models. She has spent half of her career working for Philips in the Netherlands. So she can definitely relate to the challenges of dual income couples who decide to relocate abroad and share her experience on how you can make you feel at home at Eindhoven, a lovely place to live in. As a delighted ambassador, she believes that women are stronger together. She believes that our diversity, our cultures, and our backgrounds are a great opportunity for learning and growth. Our differences make us stronger, and by working together, we can make this world a better place. My dear participants of today, please join me and welcome the most wonderful person with an everlasting smile, Beata. Beata and Astrid, the floor is over to you now. We are really looking forward to this discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that was the most beautiful introduction I have ever had. Thank you so much. Now, Astrid, over to you.
Well, same for me. So thank you for joining us for this last session. I hope it's been a wonderful and inspiring day. And as, of course, the last session, the energy might be a bit low, but let us try to bring it up again. I will do a short introduction of inclusion and diversity in Philips and what it means for us and how we're approaching it. And then Beata will talk a bit more about like the success of creating a movement, which can be applied to numerous topics and subjects that you might encounter. But this is definitely a story of success. If you talk about diversity and inclusion, it's always really easy if you first kind of like clarify what are we actually talking about. And when I worked at Nike, we said diversity is who you are and inclusion is how you feel. However, this quote was made by a colleague of mine in the business, and people immediately link to it and have an image what it means. Diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion, as that becomes more important, is really being asked to dance. And as the world is changing and people are looking for tribes to belong to, multinationals, to some futurologists, are perceived as one of the tribes of the future that people want to belong to. So, yes, increasingly, and also with remote working, we're looking into how do we engage everybody from the strength of their differences and create that sense of belonging across the world. And belonging is very much about dancing like no one else is watching. A few numbers on Philips is it's a big company. We have about 83,000 employees, operations across 76 countries with numerous locations. Overall, we're on 36% women. We have a lot of millennials as well, as you can see, and really a lot of nationalities also in our supervisory board and exco committee. So that is something really top down that is lived, which is great. Our When I started working for Philips 2 years ago, there were a few requirements for me to join where I knew that if I'm going to go on in this area of work, for me to be successful, it's important that the CEO is really committed and that he has committed himself to tangible commitments. And that is something where France and as you is really committed. He committed himself to increase the number of women, and as said, gender is a legitimate and a good starting point to evolve your culture, because if you have one outgroup that comes to the top of an organization with a critical mass of at least 30%, you will be able to positively influence your culture. And in the end, it doesn't matter what outgroup gets there first. And since we can globally only measure national identity or national background and gender, this is a really valid starting point. Women are half of the global population. We're not up in the senior ranks represented as well. So this is a good starting point. But Philips right away already acknowledged that they said this is really a business imperative. It's not a nice to have or let's be politically correct, or this is something that is critical to become and grow into a high performing organization, because in the end, innovation really derives from a fully inclusive environment where we actually invite people to share their perspective, to challenge the status quo, to let us know if they don't get it, but also share when they're not feeling so well. It's that inclusive the environment that really drives the business case for diversity. However, I said gender is a nice starting point to measure, but of course, our inner diversity is much richer than what we can physically see. So never forget the waterline, of diversity. The majority of our diversity, the biggest chunk of who we are and what differentiates us, is under the waterline, beyond what we can see. And on top, we don't associate with one identity often, right? I don't want to be associated solely for my skin color or my age or my gender or my profession. We all bring multiple identities. So in the end, it's really, again, more important to create that environment of inclusion in which we can all be and bring our best. Great thing for Philips is that last year they've actually redefined their purpose and went external with it as well, where we said As a leading health technology company, it is our purpose to improve people's health and well-being through meaningful innovation. And our mission is still the same, of aiming to improve 2.5 billion lives per year by 2030. But we added here really improving people's health and well-being, which has been like a major focus for Philips also in the past year with COVID going around the world. We will be the best place to work for people who share our passion, promoting personal development, inclusion, and diversity. And together we will deliver superior long-term value to our customers and shareholders while acting responsible towards our planet and society together with our stakeholders. And this is new, and people find this very inspiring, that we really want to not just make a profit, but really have profit as a result of doing the right things. We also feel the obligation to contribute to societies, to societal topics at large. So increasingly, you will see that multinationals also speak up about these things, and that is something that is aligned with our purpose. When you talk about I&D in Philips, we actually said it's not an HR thing. It's a lens, and we built that lens to visualize that it's something it's something that should be ingrained in everything we do, everything and everyone we develop, and everything we promote, and every person we promote. And we said, what is then that lens for Philips? And then we looked at our roots, our heritage of being such an old company. We've come from a background of family. We have one of the brand values, and we have three, and one of them is caring, and we want to lead in healthcare. So these three made it really logical for Philips, and people recognize it right away. We need the lens of caring. It also appeals to the heart and a universal kind of need that people have to care for each other, and people recognize it, and that's how we brought things together through that lens of caring. And then we built our strategy saying that what you really want for people is through that lens of care. We asked, what do you want for those that you care about? And there you see our strategy consisting of 4 pillars. What you want for those that you care about: you want them to be healthy and well. That's where we focus on health and well-being. You want them to really take care of themselves. We can go to the next slide. And really also create a structure of policies and practices for people to understand how we long-term back them up with building this culture of inclusion. You want them to learn and develop. And of course, you want you to be you, because you're your best if you can be yourself. And hashtag You Are You was born in the Pride movement, but is something that we use now to push inclusion. This is all supported by employee networks and fostered and grown in an I&D lab. I&D lab is something that I love to call it, because it doesn't require me to write a strategy for every project. We bring together the best initiatives there are in Philips, and there are many. We put them in the framework of caring. We connect them all together so that people start to see how it all kind of one is adding up to the other. And that's how we create flying wheels, with the contribution of our employee networks, with the endorsement of our leaders, but also collecting everything that's already there in Philips and orchestrating it in a way that it adds up. And that has created the final slide, which is a picture, because we often say we have more of a holistic approach, that we're chief orchestration or chief connection officers, and you see us in the middle of the picture. We're creating a village together to make the house of care a home where you see people carrying in their own couch. We want our employees to contribute to our strategy. And if we keep growing this movement, we can actually, from a village, we can build a town and change a country, and eventually the world. Beata, this is a very short pitch, but I hope it gives you some feeling of what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Astrid. As you see, we have an amazing I&D leader in Philips. I think we are blessed to have you here in the organization. And let me now talk about how we can include employees even more. And one of the employee resource groups or initiatives is actually our celebration of the International Women's Day. Before I go there, and I can't see your comments, unfortunately, but it's a really open question. Like, do you celebrate 8th of March events in your organization? If you represent any company right now, that would be very interesting for us to know. You can put it in a chat box, like yes or no, if you celebrate this. whether you do or not, let me give you a little inspiration now so that you know what we actually talk about and show you a little movie from our last year event. So here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our third International Women's Day. Seeing how it has grown and how much passion is there in the company to keep it alive, it's amazing.
Inclusion is very much about indeed including all, and that goes way beyond a gender, of course. But as we're all equal, we shouldn't forget we're all different as well. So it's fine to celebrate differences while we strive for more inclusion.
It's about embracing diversity. It's about recognizing the impact that females can have in an organization and having a day for them where they can learn from others, network, and take some skills with them to go back and make an impact in the company.
Well, I think it's important to have diversity within Philips, within the high level, everywhere. So that's women for everybody, really. Not only because we're women, but also to get to know so many other people from across Philips, to have all different levels come here together is just, I think it's a good thing.
Whenever you're in a male-dominated situation or branch of work, oftentimes you're kind of pegged as the token female. And what was very interesting to me was how some of the other leaders dominated that. And oftentimes just coming back with a response as well, if I were a man, you probably wouldn't ask me that. So let's talk about the subject.
And I'm very passionate about all of you. I'm very passionate about Philips and the mission that we have and why we do it. But please make sure you define success for you and not in somebody else's eyes.
If the heart of power really wants it, it'll be done in 24 hours. And the question is then, who's got the power? And to me, I think all of us here has got the power and all of us here got a heart. So how much diversity can you handle?
I'm a huge advocate. I think we underplay how important diversity is just by itself.
I think it's very important that women are seen and heard. Definitely not only International Women's Day. We're also glad to see a lot of male colleagues around.
It's a nice day to talk about inclusion and diversity and make it aware among the company.
Everyone in his or her career needs a mentor. Mentoring gives me confidence and helps me to reach my goals.
All of us have unconscious biases, and that only by addressing that we can actually increase inclusion and diversity in the company.
I'm very happy that we have such a day to celebrate not only women but also diversity within Philips.
Now, I couldn't be more proud to show this to you. And Rupa, who was actually introducing us today, she was also part of the event. So you can comment and put your comments in the box if you feel inspired already by now. And I know I have like 10 minutes maximally to just guide you through this. But let me just tell you a little story how it started. So the fact that we have this amazing celebration now, it doesn't mean that we do it already for really long years. Our first thought was back in 2017, like somewhere in September, when we sat with a very small group of actually in total 3 women. So you see us on the screen. We work, all of us, in procurement, male-dominated organization, and we had that joint initiative in our mind to maybe start small and do and organize a panel discussion or a small event that could be local. And we were thinking about the date. But when we decided on the 8th of March, I was like, wait a moment, 8th of March cannot be local. I mean, we have to go global. So let's try to do something about that. And I prepared a business case actually for our HR officer to explain why the celebration would be meaningful. The moment was great. I think we had quite some discussion about it also in previous panels. If you joined the event and if you follow the discussions on the importance of having that mandate to do it top down and embrace in the organization. So that was a moment when we started to have our KPIs on number of women that we include in senior positions. And that was a great moment to start did that kind of celebration because we were on the breakthrough of a cultural change. So it was a very easy buy-in. In that moment in time, we had already the whole agenda, preparation and proposal, what we want to do, how you want to make it happen. And it just scaled up. And then we thought, well, we don't do it only locally. The video that you saw was actually our last 2020 event in Eindhoven, but we reached out across the organization already in the first year, inviting them to do something locally so that we could celebrate across the globe. And already in year one, and let me just show it to you, already in year one, we had 42 locations joining at 6,500 people, which was just amazing. And then we had lunch after the whole event with our chief HR officer. He was like, what just happened? Like, what's going on? I think there was an ocean boiling and we don't see this. Like, why on such a scale we have so many people joining and picking it up? What happens? And the fact was that, and that's also, you will see it also in some kind of takeaways, but most important thing for us was to have one global guideline, one global communication theme that we wanted to spread across the globe, specifically on inclusion and diversity, but we gave a lot of freedom in the way that people could arrange that locally, because we couldn't and we shouldn't specify exactly how you celebrate inclusion and diversity from our Amsterdam or Eindhoven and just tell people how to do it in India, China, Brazil, or on United States. Every country has different issues to tackle with regards to inclusion and diversity, and it must be culturally inclusive. So we said, it can be big or small, however possible, but make sure you do something. And when we scale it up, because across the globe and across time, 2019, 2020 event, we actually went global. We had, as Rupa told you in the beginning, 80 locations and 20,000 people celebrating inclusion and diversity across the globe on one day. I always say this is better than the New Year's Eve, because we start in Sydney in Australia and then we go through like Malaysia and China, India, and then we hit Europe. And when we go to sleep, it's like 11 p.m. Our site in Bothell in the east coast of, it's the west coast of the United States. They start celebrations. So it's just really amazing. The fact that we give a lot of freedom, that's one. But we also tell people that basically when they do something, it must resonate locally. And they also have to have a local sponsor. So we don't have central budget for organizing that. I mean, it looks great if you have this impression, but it's not that we have a central budget for facilitation across the globe. So that's one of the key takeaways we wanted to share with you. And I will go to some comments in a moment as well. But the fact that, we did it because we love it and we have so much passion in the organization. It's great that we are also appreciated externally. And in December, we got Women Tech Global Awards for our Inclusion and Diversity Initiative of the Year, which really makes me extremely proud that, we can position Philips' name and Philips' brand as a role model. I have, just looking at the time, really have to scan through this, but a couple of takeaways for you. If you'd like to start engaging employees in this kind of initiative or any kind of other employee resource groups, as I said, have clear explanation or business case why this initiative is important and make it meaningful. Connect it with business objectives of the organization. It's really helpful. Show that you care. I think the fact that we are genuinely committed to making it happen and we speak from our hearts, that definitely helps because it resonates with anyone else in the organization. Learn best practices. Like we also had to find our way how to be successful. And we checked internally what would be the best ways to get to our chief HR officer to actually talk about the budget, what could work in our organizational setup. Every company will have different culture and different policies internally that you need to fit it in, and just learn and find out and just ask and listen, and you will find out. And make it fun. I mean, we have so much energy just because we make it fun and we just follow the energy. Wherever the energy is, whenever there is enthusiasm and initiative that somebody wants to pick up, we just follow that and embrace this and have platform to appreciate that. And some useful tips, as I said, um, sponsorship must go from top management. I mean, you can imagine with 80 locations engaged, we had to have 80 sponsors, local CEOs that had to dedicate budget, resources, and time and allow their employees to join those celebrations. And it was so small as, ladies in Saudi Arabia, I said, we celebrated in 7 because we don't have more. And then you go and you look at the most colorful celebration in our innovation campus in Bangalore in India, because that's the way they celebrate it. It's really beautiful. We also say start small. Start with the initiative, and it's great to think globally, but starting small, establishing first sounding board, people who can talk about this initiative on your behalf and sell it and inspire others, that definitely helps to spread the knowledge and awareness about your initiative and get more and more people on board. And get commitment. That's really important, because we work all of this that happens with this initiative, but also with our other employee resource groups, is about volunteering. We all have totally different roles within the organization, and we on a daily basis we have our full-time jobs. This is all on top of, so we need to dedicate our own private time or work after hours, or agree with the managers that some of the hours will be put into this. And you need that commitment for people to join and maintain and inspire them, so that if one person goes, another can pick it up with same or maybe even better and higher level of energy. But you need that commitment to make it happen and to run. And recognition is key because of the volunteering nature of those initiatives. Recognizing efforts of every single individual who contributes to making this culture shift and really is an ambassador automatically of inclusion and diversity is really important. So you will get those slides as well, but I think I'm just in time. So I don't know if we have any other minutes or we have to close. I would love to get your questions and discuss.
Are there questions?
Yeah. I do see a comment by a participant saying, I want to give a compliment about the presentation. It's very informative. Now, all participants want to work for Philips. I'm very happy and proud to work with a lot of partners of their expat already. So yeah, it's very, very motivating. There's one question to Beata and Astrid about what are your plans for International Women's Day and other IND events in 2021, given the COVID situation?
Oh, I can pick it up, Astrid, maybe, and Astrid would be great if you can also comment. So the nature of the event will be different because we all moved to virtual setup, and a lot of us are working from home. Of course, our manufacturing sites, they are open in different countries. So people who are working in the manufacturing sites, they do work in the premises, but most of us work from home. So we decided to move the event to a virtual setup and have, for the first time, actually a first global IND agenda with workshops and contribution with workshop setup panels across the globe. So we will create like one global agenda for the event. So I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be totally different than we had before. Astrid?
Yeah, I was just looking at the video and thought like, oh my God, I would love to hug and see everyone, because that was literally the last Friday before we went into the first lockdown on Monday. So I'm so happy we had that event, and this year indeed it will be virtual. And the benefit is that we, as we talked before about, our focus on connecting and orchestrating, we're bringing together all local initiatives so that people can participate in workshops in India or wherever they would like, on topics they like or on people they would love to meet. and it brings just great energy and networks for our people, connecting on something that they're passionate about. So I think it will be a great day, even though virtual, but the opportunity to participate in events across the globe and meet colleagues will be fantastic. And we will have a global webcast with our CEO and EXCO members aligned to the global theme of Choose to Challenge this year, which will be like the kickoff.
Fantastic. This is so thrilling and so much positive vibes. I would really like to thank Beata and Astrid for such a valuable, informative, and inspiring session. May your work never cease to inspire us and be the path from darkness towards light. I am sure your thoughts, your work will be so impactful. It will lead to a world where everyone uplifts each other and learns to coexist in harmony. Thank you so much, my dear speakers, Beata and Astrid, for